Keep watching and I'll show you how to refute the Stafford Gambit once and for all. The Stafford Gambit is a tricky opening that black can play with a lot of traps involved, and black is basically hoping that white is going to fall into one of them. But if white knows what they're doing, then it's going to be white who emerges from the opening with a big advantage. My name's Nathan Rose. I'm the author of Chess Opening Names. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I do all kinds of content on chess, so by subscribing you won't miss out on any of the great stuff that I've got coming up. Let's see how to reach the starting position of the Stafford Gambit. It begins e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. This is the Petrov defense, which in general has a very solid, safe reputation. The reason for that is because after white takes on e5, which is the main move, black will play d6 at master level almost always. This kicks the white knight away, and then black takes on e4, and you have a symmetrical pawn structure. Both players have traded their e-pawns, and for this reason the play is just very balanced, and it even has quite a drawish reputation. But the Stafford Gambit has a different character entirely. So after white takes on e5, the Stafford Gambit begins with knight to c6, giving up a pawn. So the greatest test of a gambit is to accept it, so white takes on c6, and black captures back with the d pawn. Now, what black gets in compensation for the pawn that they've given up is rapid development for their pieces. A typical gambit, right? Sacrificing material for activity. Both bishops can develop very quickly, and black is essentially gambling on this being worth enough for the pawn. If you look at the engine evaluation on the left, you can see that it's more than 1.5 in white's favor. But this can swing very quickly, as we'll see, if white doesn't know what they're doing. And this is what the Stafford Gambit player is counting on. It was popularized by international master Eric Rosen, who's done a series of videos on all of the different traps that black can spring if white makes a misstep. It is a bit of a minefield, but after watching this video you'll be able to get through the minefield and get a great position. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the problems that can arise. So what if you make a natural developing move like knight c3 here, defending the pawn? Okay, that's not a mistake in itself, but then black plays bishop to c5, and what if you just keep developing normally? Bishop to c4. What could be more natural, right? Just getting the bishop to an active square. Well, after black plays knight to g4, white is already in trouble. There's the threat of taking on here with a fork. So another very natural move that white might make in reply is to castle, but this is actually losing for white now because black flies in with their queen h4, and this pawn on f2 is attacked 3 times, and there's also the threat of mate on h2. You have to defend the mate on h2, so you play h3, but then after this white really has to give up the exchange and black is winning. Now, we don't want any of this to happen to you, so my recommendation instead, all the way back here, after black has just captured on c6, is to play the little move d3. Now, black's next move is almost always going to be the same. It's bishop to c5. And now, again, let's take a look at some of the mistakes that white could make here. Knight to c3, very natural, right? Developing a piece. But again, the problem is knight to g4 with this pressure on f2. The only reasonable way for white to defend that one is with bishop to e3. But now black can capture on e3 with the knight, and black has regained the pawn and also has the bishop pair. And this strongly placed dark squared bishop is going to make it really hard for white to castle kingside. So black has an excellent position out of the opening here. Another move that can see white lose on the spot is bishop to g5. So we had this problem with knight to g4, right? Let's pin the knight so that doesn't become a problem. Well, actually, black can move the knight anyway. Very surprisingly, the move knight takes e4, allowing the capture of the queen. So Eric Rosen calls this the "oh no, my queen" variation. So if you take the queen, the problem is that, again, this pressure on f2 becomes overwhelming. There's only one legal move here for white. It's to play king to e2, and then bishop to g4 is actually checkmate. So, again, let's avoid all of this and play bishop to e2. This is going to stop black from playing knight to g4, which, as you saw in a couple of the other variations, was one of the big problems. So now we've got the bishop and the queen both guarding the g4 square. So we can consider this position after white's sixth move, bishop to e2, as being the first checkpoint. I think you'll reach this position 99% of the time if you play against the Stafford Gambit the way that I'm recommending. So let's just quickly recap. If black goes for the Stafford Gambit with knight to c6, you capture the knight, black will invariably capture back with the d-pawn, then you play d3 to reinforce the center, black will play bishop to c5, and then bishop to e2. And from here, I think black has four main ways of continuing. So let's run through each of them, starting with the least threatening and then moving on to more and more critical lines. The least threatening way that black can play here is to castle. I don't think it's very likely that you'll see this. Black doesn't want to play this way if they're going for the Stafford Gambit. If they've watched Eric Rosen's videos, they want to sacrifice and attack. And by castling, black is just admitting that they're not going to be able to do that. White can castle as well, and I don't think you really need to remember anything more here. You can just play normal moves like knight c3, bishop to g5, and white is just a pawn up. So nothing to worry about if black castles on move 6. So back to our checkpoint. The second move that black could go for is queen to d4. If black plays this, it's an indication that they are mixing up their lines. Like, this is a move in the Stafford Gambit in some of the other lines, but because of the moves that we've played, this is not dangerous. White can just castle, and let's say that black castles as well. Well, now you can kick the black queen away. Let's say it goes back to d8, and again, white just has an extra pawn. Really, the only thing you need to remember here is that after queen to d4, you don't want to play bishop to e3 to kick the queen away, because that would allow the queen to capture on b2. And white is still okay after we have these captures, but the black queen is a bit active, black has regained the pawn, and we don't need to allow this. So no, after queen to d4, just castle and play c3 next. Okay, so back to our checkpoint. The third move that black could try on move 6 is knight g4. Quite surprising, because we thought we had prevented this move, right? It's attacked twice by white, and it's defended just once by black. But the idea here is that after white takes the knight, black will come in with the queen, threatening to checkmate, and also threatening to regain the piece. So my recommendation here is that you just give back the piece and use the time to castle. So now black is going to take this bishop with a threat on the white queen, and here you've got a move to remember. It's quite important that you move the queen to e1. By moving the queen to e1, you're going to have some extra defensive possibilities later, as we'll see. So black really needs to finish their development, so they'll castle. And now you play bishop to e3. If black were to trade, then we've just traded pieces, which is good for us because we're already up a pawn, remember, from the gambit. But if black instead goes bishop to d6, which I think is a bit more likely, threatening checkmate, we've got this quite cool move, f4. So we're gaining extra space in the center now. We're also offering a queen trade, and we're also blunting the bishop's ability to attack h2. So white has reached safety, and I think this is as much as you need to remember if black plays knight g4. Okay, so back to our checkpoint, and the fourth and final move that black can go for, and I think the most challenging out of all of them, is h5. The idea of this is to again renew the ability to play knight to g4. As you can see, the Stafford Gambit player really wants to play knight to g4, and if you try and deny him that with bishop to e2, then black's going to try and force it through anyway. So if white plays the most natural move here, which I think would be to castle, then knight g4 will come, and if you take this knight now, then black will recapture with the pawn. And this rook on the starting square, h8, is now an important attacking piece, bearing down towards white's king. Now this is exactly the type of game that the Stafford Gambit player is looking for. So one important principle in chess is don't give your opponent what they want. So instead, after you see h5 played, the important move to remember, and not an easy one to spot if you haven't studied it, is c3. What could be the idea here? Well, if black plays knight to g4 now, then you can respond with d4. So this combined c3 plus d4 pawn chain is blunting the black dark squared bishop from being able to target f2. And so knight to g4 isn't so threatening. We'll come back to knight to g4, but first I want to take a look at what else black can try after c3. Black could try playing bishop to g4, but I think in this case you can just push the bishop back with f3 and then continue with d4. So you can see that white's center is becoming quite powerful here. The black bishop needs to move. Let's say it goes back to b6, and now you can play bishop to g5, pinning this knight, and also introducing a threat of playing e5. So with this big center and black's pieces being pushed back with threats, white is doing very well in this line. Okay, so nothing to worry about, bishop to g4. If black instead plays bishop to b6, so anticipating this d4 idea, then I think you now should pin the knight with bishop to g5. So we're seeing a few common themes here, right? We're seeing that in this line with h5 and then c3, that bishop to g5 is often a move. So let's say that black looks to escape from this pin. I think now the important move is knight to d2, which threatens to come into c4 and fork the queen and dark squared bishop. And if we can trade pieces, remember this is good for us. As white, we're already a pawn up, so trades are good for us. We just need to nullify black's threats, get our king to safety, and then we should be winning. So then the last move is the one that we introduced at the start, which is knight to g4. We already saw that the first follow-up here should be d4. And if the Stafford Gambit player plays the way that they normally do, they're not going to want to back down. They're going to want to keep on creating threats. So queen to h4. Okay, the bishop's attacked, but we're threatening checkmate. So the move you've got to play here is g3. And now there are two possible moves, I think, that black could try. Black could try going to h3, but that would actually lose, because after bishop to f1, the black queen is trapped. So much more likely, I think, after g3 is that the queen will go to f6, threatening mate again. And there's a couple of possibilities here. You can play f3, and now actually black has got two pieces attacked, but this can get quite murky. This can get quite murky because black could play h4, and now you have to remember which piece to take. If you take the bishop, you're actually going to lose again, because now after taking on g3, you can't take back with the pawn, because then you'd lose here. There's threats of this pawn pushing forward and maybe promoting. So this is the type of mess, again, that the Stafford Gambit player wants. So I would say instead that after g3, queen f6, the move here is bishop to f3. This defends the f2 pawn, and the black dark squared bishop is still attacked. So let's say it goes back. Let's say it goes back to b6. Well, now you can push the black knight away, and really it has to go to h6, and again white is fine. So I think a few key memory markers are important here in this line with h5. First of all, respond to h5 with c3. This is very important. And then the other key move that you'll see a lot of the time is to pin the knight with bishop to g5. And another mindset that you should have when you see this h-pawn come down the board is that you should not be in a rush to castle kingside. And in fact, you're actually going to be safer to castle queenside in many cases. So I think the easy way to remember this is that you see this pawn coming down, that's creating a threat on the king side, so don't put your king where the threats are coming. So there you have it. That's everything you need to know to refute the Stafford Gambit. For me, one of the great pleasures in chess is that when someone plays a trappy opening against me, I love the ability to show them that I have studied the theory and I'm not going to fall for their tricks. So if you've enjoyed this video, please show your appreciation by dropping a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this one, and do drop a comment as well. If someone tries the Stafford Gambit against you, how were you able to use these moves that you learnt in this video, and how did it turn out? I'd love to hear from you. Until next time then, I'm Nathan Rose. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.